And welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to No Story Stagnates with me, Ernie Boxall. And today it's my pleasure to interview a lady I've just become acquainted with through networking, and that is Linda McBee. Linda, can you tell the viewers who you are, where you are, and what you're doing at the moment, please?
My name is Linda McBee, and I'm in Maryland, right outside of Baltimore in the USA. And at the moment, I am working with healthy candy that's an instant gratification nutrition product. It tastes like a healthy candy.
Right. And we're going to talk about that much later, Linda, but I do remember you telling me that there's a specific reason why you've turned to that product. So we'll come to that later. So the first question that I ask all of my guests, do you know how your mother and father met?
I do. They actually met, it was a blind date from someone else had introduced my dad to my mom. And it was in Gettysburg, Maryland, Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
And what's crazy is he then was introduced to my mom's sister. And my mom's sister was seeing a gentleman who ran a farm, Bob Bishop, and her name was Betty. And what happened was, I guess my mom wanted him to stay around some, so they got connected, and my dad came and helped out at the farm.
Right.
And spent time and did things that then they got married. So my Uncle Bob then
It sounds very much like the picture that came into my head was one in the westerns where the man rides up to a farm and the lady of the ranch says, I could do with some help around here. That's brilliant. So Linda, your life started before you were born on the basis of a blind date then?
It sure did.
Wonderful.
And they dated for about a year before they got married. I asked that too. I was like,
yeah, wonderful. So you know how your story started from before you were born. Do you have family at all, Linda?
My family consists of my dad, and I have cousins.
Yeah.
At this point,
yeah,
all of my aunts and uncles have passed.
Right.
But and they don't live really close.
That was going to be my next question. Yeah. They live quite a long way away then.
A couple hours. So it's not so convenient to go see them or spend every holiday with them, which
So in view of what we're going through at the moment, can I ask when was the last time you saw them?
Oh, it's been a couple. My family or my dad?
Well, anyone from your family.
I saw my dad about 2 months ago.
Right.
But it had been the first time in almost a year and a half.
Absolutely. It's the same with my daughters. Yeah, so I understand how you feel about that. Can you tell me if it's had any effect on you?
I'm a people person, so I like, I'm a time person, so I like that connection and doing things and being with people.
Right.
Zoom has been an alternative lifesaver in that at least you get to see people's expressions and faces and that kind of thing.
Great, wonderful. So we'll move forward a little bit, Linda, and we go into your first 10 years, from the years 1 to 10. Is there a story which made such an impression on you, good or bad, that you can think of it straight away and whether it taught you a lesson?
Yes, I lost my mom when I was 5, and she was only sick for 6 months
Right.
before she passed.
Yes.
So life is very short,
Uh-huh.
and people are important. They're probably the 2 top lessons for me.
Right. Without, and I, tell me you want to move on if you like, but can you tell me about just maybe the years around that event and some of the effects it had on you?
My mom cooked, and so I would mirror
Right.
her. I actually had a playhouse. So I can remember back until I was 2. And the only reason I know that is because my dad and I've had conversations,
Uh-huh.
and I was like 2 or 3. I remember the house that we lived in when I was that age,
Yes.
and not everything about it, but there was a mini house,
Yeah.
that someone had built for me that had a kitchen, and now it wasn't that big. It was gosh, I don't know, probably maybe 4 or 5 yards wide.
Yeah. It's big enough.
Yeah. And I remember my neighbor, little girl, she had all brothers.
Yes.
So her and I would play inside of it and
Wow.
things and mirror. And then there was a sandbox outside.
Yeah.
And it was those visions that I saw my mom do,
Right.
that I mirrored. And to this day, I love to cook.
Yeah.
Not such a great baker. I'm not a fancy cook.
No.
But I'm pretty creative, and that was really helpful with my health issues, as we'll talk about later.
Yes.
That it's a good thing that
Yeah.
because it takes some time and patience
Uh-huh.
to really cook.
Yes, I know that. And where were you living then, Linda?
I was living outside of Hagerstown, Maryland, in Williamsport.
Right, right. Again, I'm not familiar with Maryland, so obviously the visitors or the viewers might know that. Yeah.
So it was it was really close to the Antietam battlefield. Well, not the Antietam battlefield, but there's some areas in Boonesboro,
yes,
and Sharpsburg. It was close to there.
Oh, so does that mean you are a bit of a history buff, or were you interested in history, or not?
No, I wasn't really interested in history. One of the things that happened is after my mom passed, I went and lived with my grandmother for a short period of time, and then my dad remarried, and we moved back to the Hagerstown area where my dad worked.
Yes.
But I think the school felt sorry for me, and they continued to pass me through, and I didn't learn how to read until I was in middle school.
Right.
So that really created a challenge. I did go to a private school where I was in a special reading class to get caught up.
Yeah.
So in 8th grade, I was only on a 3rd grade reading level. And so reading and history and those kinds of things, it was really difficult for me to comprehend. And way back then, at the age when I was growing up, that school was teaching sight reading, not phonics.
Right.
So that made it even tougher.
Yeah.
To really work through. And then when I got to middle school, the school I went to then, the reading classes, that teacher taught phonics. And so for high school, well, that's probably a little past 10, but
Yeah.
from,
Well, we'll come to that. But I guess the next question then, Linda, is, what were you like at school? Were you a team player or were you a bit of an individualist?
I was a Girl Scout
Uh-huh.
and did brownies.
Yeah.
And that route, especially since growing up in the country, and my grandfather had a dozen horses.
Right.
So was very interested in animals and that piece. And so as far as that went, I was a team player.
Yeah.
I remember I was probably 9 or 10. And in Brownies, Girl Scouts, I can't remember what that transition was. We had to go out and sell cookies.
Yeah.
And I remember the community that we lived in. We lived on a road, but there was a big community behind us.
Right.
And when we got that paper initially, I'm like, I'm going to be the winner.
Yeah.
I'm going to go out and sell the most boxes of cookies. And
yeah.
That's probably the thing that I remember the most of why I guess people consider it sales, but when you have something that people want, you don't feel like it's selling, it's a win-win.
Absolutely. Because to be honest, and this is quite apt, because I've heard on the US news, whether it was yesterday or the day before, that the Girl Scouts, they've really missed out because they haven't been able to sell their cookies.
Yes.
Because of the virus. So you were there. They may have needed you there, Linda. But let's move on. Now, I feel that the teenage years are really important. So I split them into two, 11 to 16, a story and maybe a lesson.
So when I was about 11, I was really struggling with my weight.
Yeah.
And so my dad's wife took me to a doctor, and they, way back then, really the only thing that they looked at was counting calories.
Yes.
Not so much of, yes, are you eating gluten? Are there food sensitivities?
No.
But what that really helped me with is being aware of what ingredients are in food that can cause weight gain.
Uh-huh.
And so I lost 50 pounds over an entire year.
Yes.
I was growing, so that was helpful. It was a combination of growing and not gaining weight.
Yes.
In proportion, but really slimming down and being cognizant of what I was eating and how much calories was in something.
Great. Yeah. Yeah.
So that was a really life lesson, and I still am aware of food, and you know, can I make that recipe with half the amount of sugar and it tastes good, and different creative ways, because I'm not so much of the alternative sugars and things that can really taste nasty.
Yeah.
But how can you be creative with that? So that was probably the best life lesson. And I was and had a great support system.
Yeah.
Through church and some organizations with Girl Scouts that I really valued. I don't know if I realized how valuable they were, but they were my lifeline.
Great. And how about those years at school? 11 to 16 at school.
So they were a real struggle, because I literally, when I changed schools in 8th grade, I was only on a 3rd grade reading level.
Of course.
But by the time I graduated from high school, I graduated with my class. So I literally spent almost my whole entire high school years doubling up, so to speak, to be able to graduate. And I'm very thankful for those people in my life that took the extra time to help me be able to learn how to read. Now, what's crazy is I'm not a great reader today because of it. The comprehension still is a struggle, but thank God for Audible. I listen to probably a book or two a week. And sometimes I'll take and listen to Audible and do a hard copy book as well. So that I can visually see it and read it to really reinforce it. And that helps with, just reading skills and everything across the board. So I'm very thankful that
I understand that. And 16 to 20, Linda?
Graduated at 17 from high school. And then went away to college for 1 year. But because what I didn't mention is about from the 1 to 10 year, about a year after my mom passed and my dad remarried, then my dad actually lost his eyesight. Well, he was diagnosed with eye condition. That is very similar to what Stevie Wonder has with the retina. A lot, people know him, and it's a very similar situation that he has. Because of his eyesight, I would put him in my back pocket because he lost his job when I was probably 9. And I would take him places. And so I actually have my degree in mental health and psychology and working with people. And that has been really beneficial in laying the foundation and the groundwork. Working with businesses.
Wonderful. And challenging as well, I could imagine. Did you manage to make any friends during that period?
I worked full-time and went to school full-time.
Wow.
So because my dad really wasn't able to help out a lot, you just did what you had to. And you realize that he couldn't supply because he was on disability. And you just became tenacity and been described that many times of just wanting something and going after it.
Well, for many, and I'll hold my hands up, Linda, for many, that is the American story, isn't it? Of doing what you have to do. What jobs were you doing?
I was in, at the time I was in mental health. I got my associate's degree in mental health and then went on to get my work on my bachelor's in business. But and of course in mental health, it's a lot of hours and not a whole lot of pay.
I understand. And also, was it psychologically challenging?
Yes. Some of the individuals I worked with had some psychological issues and some had more physical.
And did you bring those home with you, or were you able to separate the two?
Well, with my dad being blind, I lived in it. It was my life 24/7.
Were you able to talk to your dad about your day?
No, I didn't live at home at the time.
Good Lord.
I had moved out. I moved out when I was like 19.
Wow. Okay, Linda, well, let's move on to 20 to 30. That decade, what happened to you in that decade?
That decade, I started out really great and had a job with the government,
Yes.
in a hospital, but it was a state position, didn't pay a lot, and so was kind of looking, and was in a car accident at work that the doctors weren't sure what was going on, and it was a workman's comp case, so it got to be a struggle. And I realized then that no one else could control my income.
Right.
And I began to search for options of creating some additional revenue outside of that.
Yes.
And that's really been my trajectory then the next years. But because of a lot of health issues that I had, with autoimmune issues and stomach issues, a lot of capsules and tablets, my body rejected. I wasn't able to absorb them.
Yes.
And so trying to find solutions was a little tough.
I can imagine. And just on that, if you were able to go back from what you know now, if you're able to go back to that time, you would have made changes, I take it, in your medicines and things like that. So what changes would you have made if you'd have known more about it?
Probably the biggest change that I would have made is going back to my story of the little girl selling Girl Scout cookies and saying that I'm going to win. I'm going to be the one that sells the most cookies, and believing in myself.
Right.
Through those years would have been the lesson that
right. And
kind of chokes me up a little bit, because that's kind of what I'm dealing with recently. But it's funny that in telling this story, I literally remember holding that paper up going, I'm going to win this. And nobody in the house really heard me but me.
Right.
And I'm the only one that can make someone believe it.
Living where you did, Linda, were there opportunities to use natural foods?
Oh, where I lived, probably not a whole lot of options there.
No.
For,
not on the farm or anywhere.
No, they were into more growing vegetables.
Right. Yeah.
That they took to market, or my uncle had pigs, so he would grow corn.
Yes.
Feed to the pigs. Not so much medicinal and alternative options. No. That actually happened probably in my 30s, that I began to look at options on that avenue, and resources, and looking at foods and eliminating foods, and doing a food journal to see what foods were aggravating different things. Yeah.
So towards the late 20s, were you more involved in business towards the late 20s?
I was just starting when I had the car accident.
Right.
And so that made me realize, when I was inside of a workman's comp case that was tied to going to jury, and that I needed to make some shifts and changes to have some additional options for business.
And again, if we can go back, can you tell us anything about the accident?
Sure. I was hit from behind. The vehicle I was in was stopped, and it was a 20 passenger van.
Right.
And a short box, one of the short box trucks hit us at 65 miles an hour. So the seatbelt kept me alive, but it did a lot of internal damage. Yeah. They actually thought I broke my sternum, and the whiplash was really severe.
I can imagine.
and it reversed my days and nights. So I'd be awake I'd want to, want to be awake all night
Yes.
and sleep all day. Now, in today, that would have been fine. I could have just done business the rest of the world, right?
Yeah.
But doctors wanted to put me on all these medications to make me sleep at night.
Right. So it was more medication. Yeah.
Right. So I found alternatives to get off of those medications, and Flexix neurotherapy reprograms the brain waves.
Right.
Done it. I've looked at acupuncture. I've
Yeah.
Looking at alternative options has been my cup of tea.
Right.
Since my 20s after my car accident.
Yes.
Didn't really make that connection until now.
There you go. And to be honest, that is something I hear all the time. That once people are starting to recount their stories, there's a lot of them say, "Oh, I've forgotten that. I didn't know how important that was." So let's come into your 30s and take it from there.
Well, most of my 30s, it was that I really struggled with from the car accident. Yes. And trying to find solutions, afraid to really look at other business opportunities because I didn't know what was going to happen with the case that I was involved with, and I didn't want to sabotage a lot of head games.
Yes. Yeah. A
lot of head games. And then in my 40s began to work with, but in my 20s, I actually got my insurance license.
Right. Yes.
And it took, because of the car accident being so severe, it took me a couple times to take the insurance test.
Yes.
But I was determined. I took it, and then took my stockbroker's test and had a lot of financials, and began to market a product that you could put investments inside of life insurance.
Right.
And back 30 years ago, no one had ever heard of it. So it was like, oh, well, you mean term where you,
yeah.
No, literally like mutual funds inside of a life insurance product. So it was really, so it's funny. I had a conversation with a financial planner recently, and he's like, oh my gosh, you were just way before your time.
Yes.
And I sat and thought about all of the different companies that I worked with that were either startups or that were new to market, and really helping them. And what I realized was all I needed to do is find something that I believed in, and stay with it and ride it out.
Yes.
But what I realized with the financial is I wasn't able to help everyone. I was working with seniors and helping them set up. I was also helping them set up some trusts and looking at their finances to help them not have so much taxes that would affect their Social Security. I didn't feel like I was helping them a whole lot with their health. Right. And it was just a passion that I had all my life. And I made great money as a financial planner, great money. Now, I spent what most people make a year in advertising. Right. I spent over $100,000 a year in advertising when I had my financial business. Yes. Yeah. And that's a lot of money. And the difference between the two, and then I sold print advertising. And so it would make me nuts when, and that was in my it started in my late 30s. Yes. Where when I would be meeting with the business owner, they were like, oh, well, I don't want to spend any money on advertising. And I'm like, well, how are you expected to get your business out? How are you expecting to let people know about you. And word of mouth is great, but sometimes you need some additional assistance
Absolutely.
in getting your message out.
Yes. Yeah. And you were able to put that together as well, were you?
I was.
And yeah, so that's amazing that someone who had so much trouble reading ended up writing other people's copy.
I didn't write it.
Ah.
I just went out and sold advertising. I've been
Oh,
in
I
sales.
see. Ah.
Because really that's all I've done is I've educated people about products and services.
Yes.
I don't really feel like I'm a salesman.
No.
I really just educate them about options that are out there to see if anything that I'm working with might be a solution for the challenges that they're having.
Wonderful. Wonderful. So we come on to your 40s, Linda. And it seems to be a continuation, but I do know you've probably moved into a different field.
I did because during those last years of my 40s, I developed, because of all of my autoimmune issues.
Yes.
I ended up with Lyme disease.
And I thought Lyme disease came from a tick. Is that wrong?
No, that's correct. It does come up from a tick. But what is interesting about Lyme disease is it can sit dormant in the body and triggered later in life. And that could be a stress, that could be the body. I think for me, it was a combination of having a lot of other autoimmune issues.
Yes.
Literally kind of my body breaking down from the stress from that.
Absolutely.
And that's when the Lyme disease was triggered.
Okay.
And I actually just called my Lyme doctor that I have worked with and told him that, hey, I have a solution. I'd like to send you some information, because a year ago, next month, was introduced to an instant gratification nutrition product. We have 15 different experiences.
Yeah.
We're a 9-year-old company that just came to the United States. And the difference between it and everything else that I had tried, and I had tried everything, they were all capsules and tablets that had to go through the stomach.
Yes.
Before they came into the cells. And because autoimmune is gut issues, people have trouble digesting not just capsules and tablets, but a lot of food.
Yes.
Different types of food. I used to know, I Googled to say, how many autoimmune issues are there? There's many. I don't know if it's 100 or more.
Yes.
But the problem is, it's all based on your DNA. It's all based on your genetic history.
Yes.
And I have some tests to see, okay, what genetic history did my mom and dad give to me?
Interesting.
To narrow down my search and what additional products and services that I look at for myself.
Yeah.
But they all show up differently for people.
Yeah. Does that mean that you do quite a lot of, when you talk to people or you're helping people, do you do quite a bit of research on them?
That's a really interesting question, Mr. Ernie. So for the past year, I really wanted to help people with their health. But what I quickly, I don't know, maybe not as quickly as I needed to, realize that not everybody wants to get healthy.
Right. Yes.
Because when you get healthy, it's not just about addressing the health issue. It's about addressing any emotional issue.
Absolutely.
That goes along with that.
Brings some responsibility, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. But I can help people focus on additional income stream.
Yes.
That in the meantime can help them get healthy.
Yep.
And that's a great thing. And so that's in the last couple of months, that's been my focus.
Uh-huh.
And that's why I was introduced to you. That's why the universe connected me with you, because you're helping people on a larger scale.
Yes.
On many levels.
I hope so. I hope so. That is the passion. But it also, in a way, it proves that everything that happened to you before has been a lead up to what you're doing now.
Absolutely.
And I often say that if the car that you were in had been 10 seconds early or 10 seconds late, you wouldn't have been in the accident.
Right.
And where would you be now? It may have been better off, or it may have been worse off. But it seems that your connection between wanting to help people in terms of their health, but also having that financial background, is really bringing the two together.
Yes, it is. And I hadn't even, that didn't really, I don't know if I thought about it from that perspective.
Well, the other thing the other thing that just come to me is that the other thing you can do is you can really talk to people, A, who are not quite sure about their confidence, and B, not quite sure whether they're entrepreneurial, because you just tell them your story and they can make a decision from that. The fact that you survived, and I hope done reasonably well.
Yes.
That can show them that it can be done.
Thank
So
you.
I'm going to be a little bit ungentlemanly and ask if you're over 50, Linda.
I am.
So can we, I take it you're not over 60?
No.
Right. Because I'm going to say, if you were, I want some of those sweets that you're taking. So the last couple of years, can you describe to me the changes that have been made?
The last couple of years, I got connected with some business partners that have helped to begin to help change my mindset.
Yes.
While I was bedridden from having Lyme disease.
Uh-huh.
And to really help me work through that.
Uh-huh.
And I don't even know if they know that, but that's what you are, who you hang out with.
Yes.
And who you associate with, and the books that you read. And so really have been focusing on that. And recently, about a year or so ago, was actually asked to get back into the financial. And I started to, and I realized that's not where my heart was.
Right.
And I had to say, I'd rather be over here. And it might take me a minute longer to build up the revenue, but I'm passionate what I'm doing here and really helping people with their health and with a product that tastes like a lifesaver.
Yes. And again, it's just coming to my mind that it's very much like now, I know it might be the same in many places in America. It's like somebody wanting a £750,000 car, but then someone else says, but you're going to get stuck behind a £20,000 Prius. You're not going to be able to go anywhere.
Right.
You'll be happy in this car, but you're not going to be able to go past the Prius, right, or anything like that. So that just came into my head.
Absolutely.
It's not your path at the moment.
No, and my path is really helping other people to fish. And it's funny because I've recently said that, but that makes total sense of taking my financial background and really helping them get to where they want to go.
Yes. Yeah, yeah, that's beautiful. And I take it, have you ever managed people?
I have some, not really for a job, but what was interesting to me recently that I learned about myself and some of the things growing up is I didn't really do any team sports,
Right.
and that kind of thing. So working as a team player, that's probably some of the other massive lessons that I've learned the last couple years.
Right.
And um, that's very different than relying totally on yourself and
Absolutely.
expecting yourself to do everything.
So I guess now you're in a leadership role, aren't you?
I am.
That's, I'd be interested to see how that goes. Has your mindset changed?
Absolutely.
Can you tell me in a couple of ways?
I'm not quite sure exactly what you're asking me.
Well, you are now in a leadership position, which means that you are responsible for the people below you in your team. Has that changed the way you look at people?
Yes, because you never know um, who might be struggling with something that they need to work through, and just giving them time and patience, although sometimes that can be really tough.
Yeah.
Helping people who want to get to the next level. But I've been listening to The Secret
Uh-huh.
on Audible, probably going through the entire book at least once every other day,
Right.
if not every day, for the last couple of weeks.
And what lessons have you learned from that?
I'm attracting a whole different level of people
Right.
that are also looking.
Okay.
And I'm also not as frustrated,
Uh-huh.
and I'm just helping the ones today that want help and going from there.
Yes.
And finding new team members who want help,
Uh-huh.
or people that I've brought on helping their team members.
Great.
to help them.
That's fabulous. Well, Linda, I think it would be remiss of me. We're coming to the end. It would be remiss of me not to allow you to tell people about the product.
Well, the product is a lozenge that melts in your mouth. There's 15 different experiences, and we're in 30 countries. I'm sure that there'll be some links in the down below that you can research and get some more information. I'd love to talk with you. There's a contact information.
Yeah.
I'm on WhatsApp, as well as a phone call to really hear your story and see what struggles you're going through, or whether you're looking for a business opportunity.
Right.
Either way, I'd love to connect, and I love to meet new people. And that's my goal every day, is to meet a couple new people and see who I might connect with. But I think what's even more fun for me is who I can connect them with that they might need to meet. So thank you so much. It's been great.
No, thank you, Linda. I really appreciate. And you have put some trust in me by telling me the story. So, from your own mouth, can you tell people just quickly how to get in touch with you? What's the best way?
My email is my name at Gmail, Linda L. McBee, LINDALMCBEE at gmail.com. My WhatsApp number is area code 1-443-744-0001. And I have some links and different things, but I don't know them right off the top of my head.
Right.
As far as
I'll
websites.
get them. Yeah, I'll get them into the copy that I send, and they will be all on the LinkedIn page when it goes on there, Linda. But ladies and gentlemen, I am looking to get upwards of 100 views on this No Story Stagnates with Linda McBee. So if you could help me, if you could connect and comment on this interview, it'd be very much appreciated. Have a great day, have a great week, and we'll talk again. Take care.